And now SuperCoach Halfa, get your edge, get faster.
G'day, super coaches. Welcome to the Aussie NFL SuperCoach Halfa. I'm Matty C, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you back on board here in the month of July, right at the end of the month of July, starting August. This is where it gets bloody serious, and it's been serious here on the show too. This month just gone, we've had the quarterback ranking show. Taylor and I did that one at the start of the month. If you haven't caught that, you're doing it wrong. Go get it. I also spent a lot of time with pen in hand, and I released my megalith article, The Draft Doctrine. Go and find that. It will help you get positioned for your fantasy drafts. Not going to draft your team for you, but hopefully it'll give you some stuff to think about, well-researched, and give you a bit of an edge in your drafts. And then Manjot and I got the band back together while Taylor was away as well and had a mock draft show last week. Go and check that out. But we are here for the running back show tonight, and it is brilliant timing because I'm welcoming back from an extensive holiday. Got quite a fair way around this wide brown land. I'm going to bring back in the finest fantasy analyst on that land. It's Mr. Taylor Goodall. How are you, mate?
Matty C, I'm back from my holiday. The NFL is only just over a month away. Let's go!
Oh, let's go! Man, we were talking about that in the green room before. It is like 6 weeks away, maybe not even that many. I run out of fingers and toes pretty quick on this. But, mate, I'm so pumped to get down to Melbourne for that. And it just feels amazing. It's so close.
Yeah, me being the unprepared wanker I am, probably just the shit husband I am, I realised that I hadn't even booked our hotel yet for Melbourne.
Oh.
And once I realised that it is only that sort of 5 or 6 weeks away, and obviously it's only going to get more expensive the closer you get with how busy it's going to be, I realised I probably should get my ass onto Trivago, and then I found a place that's only that sort of 10-minute Uber or probably like 40 to 50-minute walk, which I don't think Sarah and I mind. I think we might actually just do that in the morning, and there might be a pub or two on the way to our own little mini pub crawl. So I don't.
Lovely.
Old 40, 50-minute walk, Matty C. I might need it with the amount of beers I might be consuming.
I'm doing the same thing. I found a place out in Kew, a little just out of the city, and it's a short tram or a long pub crawl. So we'll see which it is, but Belinda and I will give that a bash. Oh, my gosh. How many of them are going to be open? It's going to be a 10:30 kickoff or something like that local time in Melbourne. I just kind of wonder how many of these fine establishments will be tapped up on the kegs at that time of day, mate. But I tell you, I'll be looking for one.
We'll be knocking on the doors. Don't worry about that. if they know what's good for them, they'll be open.
Mate, barley, that's a breakfast item. Yeah, 100%. No worries. Mate, it is good to be here for the running back show. We did the quarterback show, and we didn't quite take each other to task on a water bet on anyone yet. I still think I need to marinate on a couple of them yet, but I know we're going to end up locking a couple of horns on where we stand with players tonight. And I think, mate, I don't know, if this was you and me in the driveway, mano a mano, I probably wouldn't be as, stout with my position on some of these, because I reckon you could probably squash me into the earth pretty quickly. But from this distance, I'm gonna make my case and try and chin up to you, mate.
Mate, it's the best part of fantasy, right? And honestly, running back and wide receiver generally is where you get the most carnage, or the most conjecture about your rankings, because they are the most important positions in fantasy. Outside of like playing Superflex, you can have your rankings at quarterback, and you've got a guy at 6 or 10. It sometimes doesn't actually really matter as much as you think, especially if you're in one quarterback league. It's just, how long do I wait in that one position? Superflex can change things because it makes it a bit more important. But, running back and wide receiver, really, really the nuts and bolts of fantasy and where you're going to win your league. So I'm looking forward to getting to the first part of that tonight, Matty C.
It's going to be a wild ride too, because I think, running back and to a degree wide receiver, but certainly running back this year, there's kind of your classic hits, ones that everyone knows who are definitely at the pointy end, and we all expect a lot of great things from. And then there's kind of those familiar ones, the familiar songs who they're always roughly around the same area in a draft. And you've also got a decent expectation of what to get, but it's not that super, super top end. But then after that, it kind of gets into like karaoke night after that. It could be anything, and we don't always agree. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to get bonkers, and I think you and I are going to take each other to task a little bit. And mate, that's to me, this is just something the most exciting part of the year because neither of us have lost a fantasy matchup yet, so we all feel very plucky, and I think every fantasy manager should too. And we particularly feel kind of clucky about it all too because we've done research on this, and we really are pretty comfortable with the work we put in to give the advice that we're giving. This isn't stuff we've dreamed up. We've spent the time in the books. We've spent the time looking at the tape. We've spent the time with the calculator out, and mate, we're ready to go to war.
I spoke to someone about that like a week ago. This is the best time of year, Matty C, where it's your rankings are right, everyone else's rankings are wrong. You're the best, they're the worst. You know, it's just you basically anyone else disagrees with you that they're the biggest piece of shit in the world. That's just the way fantasy is, and that's the way I like to think about it, mate. So look, you know, until someone proves me wrong, I'll probably still try and act like I'm right, even if I'm wrong. But look, in the end, mate, this is why we do it. We absolutely love it. So I can't wait to get
Mate, and I've seen your rankings, and you are wrong in a lot of places. So there you go. Mate, before we dive in, there's just a couple of things I wanted to touch on really quickly. The guys from G'day Gridiron, if you haven't caught their show, they're part of our network. We're part of the Aussie Gridiron Network. We do a lot to do with American football in this country, and it is on the grow. It is undeniable the great job that guys at G'day Gridiron do with covering everything NFL and even at times things to do with gridiron here in Australia. Nick Cosme, who's on that cast there, is an Australian player. He played against the New Zealand team that came here earlier in the season. And then we've also got Brad Cummins, who's been involved with coaching on this island for a very, very long time as part of that cast, along with Ian and, oh gosh, I'm blanking. Why am I blanking on Isaac? I'm like, it's the other eye. Isaac, he's going to kill me for that. But then Manjot. Manjot has so much to do with American football on this island too. He appears on that show. He's appeared on this show. And he also writes on Substack, where you can find my draft doctrine as well. He writes a lot about NFL. He's also very involved in the Aussie game too. He's got a piece coming out pretty soon to do with the Capture the Flag tournament. It's the biggest flag tournament in this part of the globe. He's always involved with that, and he's got a piece coming out, not just here in Substack form, but also he's got an interview with some of the folks from that team coming up. So get across it all. It is the Aussie Gridiron Network. Find us Substack everywhere you get podcasts here. We've got a YouTube channel. You got video episodes on Spotify. We're popping up all over the place. But and also make sure you follow us. Taylor, you've actually been on a bit of a recruitment campaign, and I can't believe that this happened through the week. But our Instagram, a few people are following us now, mate.
Oh, just a couple here and there, Matty C. But yeah, look, for anyone during the week, we actually hit 10,000 followers, which is absolutely mental. We put up a little post, just a bit of a montage of some of the good old days, and the fact that you and I never thought would have more than 30 or 40 people, and even those 30 or 40 people we thought would have just been us and on different burners and checking different downloads. So yeah, look, honest. Thank you to everyone on there that has given us support, whether it's by listening to the podcast, you know, coming over from the SuperCoach side, being old school fans of us from the, day dot with the NFL fantasy. Just honestly, everyone that's given us a follow and support. Just want to say a huge thank you, guys. It means to us, and we can't wait to continue this season. It's going to be huge.
Going to be kick ass, mate, kick ass. And it kicks off in Melbourne. We'll be down there. But in the meantime, we need to get you ready because fantasy season is now. This is where fantasy championships begin to be won. It's not where they're won. You can't win your fantasy league in your draft. You can sure as hell lose it, though. And I think a lot of analysts have had that tattooed on the backside of their eyelids like I have. I can read it if I do that. But, mate, we are going to kick off our ranking show here for the running back. And what we'll do, we'll go through them sort of roughly in the order that you might expect to see them on a draft board. But we're going to have deviations because, Tay, you're high on some guys, and I'm going to bring them up sooner. I'm high on some guys too, so I'm going to bring them up a little sooner. But generally, they'll be flying in packs of people who we think are roughly either the same value as market or where we think a guy belongs in that range of value, and we think market is having a snooze fest. You are clearly ready for this, and I think the best place to start is with a guy who somehow you and I agree on straight out of the gate as the most valuable running back in fantasy for draft purposes. And mate, I put Jimmy Gibbs at number one for numerous reasons, but I'd like to hear yours first.
Yeah, he is my bona fide one this year. And that actually isn't a consensus out there. A lot have Bijan at one. So, you and I have definitely, been simpatico on this with Gibbs. I love his situation here. You take David Montgomery out of that, who was, sorry, Knuckles to his Sonic, and even though you bring in Pacheco, I just don't think it's the same workload. I think they've been wanting to give Gibbs more work for a while, and this is the opportunity to do that. Every time you've seen Montgomery go down, Gibbs has been the one with a bullet. He's been absolutely phenomenal with that role. Like I said, I don't think he all of a sudden goes to 100% of the work. I do think there is a workload there for Pacheco, but I think it's definitely going to be less than what you saw from Montgomery. So there's straight away more work there for Gibbs than you've seen in the last few years. He's been a bona fide stud, even with the workload he had before this happened. For us, you and I did have a laugh. I was listening to you and Manjot last week on the mock
Yeah.
draft show, and Matty C, you are a company man, and you've seen my O line rankings that I've been posting, and I did hear you sort of reference run blocking and pass blocking a few different times, and I think with running
Oh,
back, it is very, very relevant this year that you and I are going to be pretty onto those this year with our rankings. And, Detroit is an amazing run blocking scheme. They've always basically been top five in the last sort of 3 or 4 years. I think they're slated at 3 or 4 this year. So they're well entrenched in the top five of the run blocking as well. So you're going to see Gibbs have a lot of holes in the middle there. He's going to, break off massive plays. He's an awesome pass catcher. He's got every tool that you want in a fantasy asset. I know I don't have to talk too much about him. Everyone knows about him, but I thought I would say why we are literally at one, because that is the difference. At the tippy top, being considered the one or considered the three, it actually can make a big difference. If I say have Bijan at three, which is a bit of a spoiler alert, that pretty much means I'm not going to, because everyone else is taking him at one or two of the draft. So it does actually matter when you have these guys in the top three. And I just think Gibbs is bona fide one for me this year. I haven't even wavered.
mate, and I do too because of two things. Detroit, great run blocking team. Detroit, not an amazing pass blocking team. So to me, taking both those items together says to me, well, yeah, anyone who's getting the ball in a turnaround run play from Goff into their breadbasket has got one of the better blocking systems in all of football in front of them. But also then it's going to be tougher for the longer passing plays to develop. And Goff may just need to use that outlet. We know that Gibbs is on the field quite a lot. He projects for almost 300 total carries plus another about 70 odd catches is what we're projecting. So about 2,000 scrimmage yards and 18 combined touchdowns. That it's just tough to match. The volume will come both ways. And I mean, I don't have the confidence that anyone else is going to see as much ball as him. And I know what he can do when he has it. So to me, it wasn't very hard. And then from there, the next couple of players, and I think this is the thing, right? The top 3 or 4, I think, are pretty cemented who they are. But you and I are different from each other, and we're different from a consensus on this, because immediately at the top, we've said Gibbs 1 when most of the market wants Bijan. I've got Bijan 2, and you've just said you don't. What's the difference there? Why don't you have Bijan at 1?
And I was just going to touch on at the end there with why I sort of like it again is it's a mixture of volume and confidence in the offense. And I think that's where I'm a little bit lower on Bijan. Again, I love the guy. He's an amazing talent. He's going to have a lot of volume. This isn't like I think Brian Robinson is all of a sudden taking, all these snaps off him. If anything, I think he's going to have less snaps than Algier did. So I actually think there might be more volume there for Bijan than he's had the last few. So that's actually a tick for him. The problem is the offense. I just don't have the same confidence in a Tua-led Atlanta than I do Detroit. The offensive line isn't as good as Detroit's. I just have that many different question marks. And it's funny you brought up with Gibbs about the difference between the pass blocking and the offensive line and the run blocking and the pass blocking. That's exactly the reason why I have the guy at 2, because he's got the exact same situation where I have a bit more confidence in the offense than I do Atlanta. They have an awesome run blocking system, but not such a great passing, which is actually perfect for running backs, especially ones that are good pass catchers, because they're getting the best of both worlds. I know I'm kind of bearing the lead here of CMC, but we'll get to him in a sec. But if you've got an amazing run scheme and you're the running back, and you're also getting dump offs because the offensive line's getting blown up in the pass game, you're getting both. So I just feel like that's why I have Gibbs and CMC as my top two, because I feel like they're getting the best of both worlds from that O-line system.
So it's not even that you've got Bijan at 2. It's that you've got Bijan at 3 and you've got CMC in front of him. And, because the 31-year-old running back coming off pretty major injury histories in his career on a team that's starting to age as well is exactly who you want in NFL, right? Well, sure, maybe it's not. But in fantasy, all those things that you're talking about, I think, crystallize beautifully for a player like this, right? We know from last year, McCaffrey had all those receiving touchdowns on top of his rushing touchdowns. So he had 17 total. And it was 10 rushing and 7 receiving or something along those lines. But this year, I don't know a lot can particularly change. Their downfield threats are Mike Evans and, I don't know, it was Ricky Pearsall. I don't even know who else was going to be a real difference maker down there. But how much time is Purdy going to have for those to develop without a good play action game? So you've got to establish a run. And even then, a 29th rated pass block. That's difficult, and I just can see CMC being the beneficiary. So for all the same reasons, the only reason I've got them flip-flopped a bit is because, I do think the same for Bijan a little bit, that Tua, great exponent of the short area passing game and a mobile quarterback. Not that he runs a lot and he doesn't contribute a ton of rushing yards, but he does enough, and that always helps your yards per carry for the bell cow back. So just with those things, I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer in how you rank these top 4 as long as you got Gibbs 1. That's all I'm saying.
This is not an anti-Bijan take from me at all. It's purely a positive Gibbs and CMC. I just think their situations are amazing this year. Nothing's going to change for CMC in the passing game. You could even make the case that maybe it's slightly better because you've got a hampered Kittle coming off an Achilles tear straight away, and he's such a big part of the passing offense. And you can't imagine he's going to, be as strong at the start of this year as he probably was throughout a fair few of those games last year. So CMC had 103, I think it was, receptions, and the second running back like 70 odd. Like it's just insane, the gulf of PPR points you were just getting as a baseline off that. And I just don't don't see anything changing with CMC there. The only thing I think might change is I think he might have a better year on the ground. Run blocking, and I think there might be an opportunity for even more rushing touchdowns than he had last year to keep all the respect.
Yeah, I hope so, because he is just one of the greatest players to watch. And we're going to get to see him week 1 here in Melbourne. It's going to be kick-ass. I've wedged CMC and Bijan Robinson I've put a little cream in that biscuit, and I've got Jonathan Taylor now up at 3. Taylor, who am I? I all of a sudden love Jonathan Taylor. I know you've got him at 4 too, so I mean the love between us for Jonathan Taylor is obvious. I have been saying positive things about Jonathan Taylor all preseason. Do you even recognize me anymore?
I'm with you, mate. And I feel like you and I have both been on that boat where we've sort of just been it's I don't think either of us have ever come into a season going, oh, well, look, we dislike Jonathan Taylor, or we don't like his talent, or whatever. It's just been like, was it 2021 when he had the massive breakout and he had the 20 odd touchdowns? And it felt to me like no one was really caring about his situations. It was just all like people thinking about that season and why they were ranking him the next season because of it. Like, it just didn't feel to me like anyone was willing to actually look at how bad the Colts situation was, and they were just ranking him there. To be fair, we got a lot of those seasons right. It was just last year that we ate a complete humble pie. It wasn't, again, that I was like super out on him. I was definitely lower than ADP, so I was never going to have him. I like the talent. It was just I didn't trust the Colts situation, Danny Dimes. I had no idea where this offense was going. And we were wrong. And honestly, it hurt us in SuperCoach, hurt us in NFL fantasy. And I think we took that on the chin in the offseason and wore it. And this year, I look at him just for who he is, and an amazing talent with a very good run blocking offensive line. I just see him having another amazing year. And to be honest, I had a look at his receptions, and his reception total was actually far better than I kind of even realized last year. 10 for receptions, which isn't normally his go. You can't really say that Dan Dimes isn't, a good proponent of dumping it off to him because he was last year. So I've got him at 4. I'm sort of around that consensus of where he's going. So I'm absolutely fine of people taking him where he is.
Yeah. So to me, these are the classic hits. They're the 4. The 4 who I think we're both in consensus that Gibbs should probably number 1, all things considered. That is probably the right call, and I can't understand why there's such positive sentiment for Bijan out there. But then, the next few you can sprinkle them in pretty well any way you like because you can make positive arguments about all these 4, and I feel really good about them kind of being in kind of a tier of their own. It would take an awful lot for me to want to draft anyone else before any of those 4 at running back. So then here's where it gets fun. 5th overall, consensus generally puts James Cook in that range, which I wouldn't disagree with, really. I've just got a guy I like a little more than that. But, I mean, we like Cook, right? He's going to, again, have about 300 touches in an offense with, only Josh Allen back there. You kind of got to respect that much volume in an offense that can move the ball with a quarterback who's also a worry. So it just gives Cook that little bit more space to play with.
He's locked in. Joe Brady, who was the OC, I brought this up 2 years ago when I was absolutely all over James Cook. He was going as like the running back 13, 14 because he'd just come off a season where he only had 2 rushing touchdowns. Everything was going to Josh Allen. And I just thought there was only room for upside the next season. And he all of a sudden had like 16. It was the most incredible turnaround. He just was smashing the red zone all of a sudden the year after. Joe Brady was a huge part of it. Like they just brought him over halfway through the previous season, and you saw the stat change for him. He just loves running the ball. It's honestly just what the Bills are going to be doing again this year. So to me, it's just more of the same. I had him a little bit lower in some of my early season rankings, but I just kind of took a look at it now with Brady being coach. I just don't see how this isn't exactly the same as how it's been the last couple of years. And, why would I go away from, ranking he's been finishing? So that's just pretty much the reason for I just think he's going to do exactly the same he's done.
I mean, until proven otherwise, I'm on the same boat. I think he's projected for like 13 combined touchdowns, and we know how much that can influence a total season finish as well. But it's the touches and the volume that really have me interested. Mate, each you and I have a different guy in this range, in the James Cook range, I'm going to call it. I'm just going to throw in that I've got Kyron there, but you do like a bit of Kyron, but you've actually got another guy in this range who I'm not nearly as hot on. And we've talked a little bit about why you're kind of on this team's offensive pieces this year. Introduce your guy and tell us about it.
Yeah, it's it's a funny one. I liked him coming into last year, but I just felt like things were a bit off of the Chargers last year. They just lost Slater, their offensive lineman. Joe Alt was kind of in and out of the team all last season as well. So the offensive line was in a bit of a shambles. He himself, Marion Hampton just sort of buried the lead, didn't really mention him yet. He kind of got injured himself. It was just a bit of a funny rookie year. You saw a bit of a breakout from, Kamani Vidal, and I just feel like that's all going to go away this year. They took him so high in the draft, only a year ago in the first round. I just feel like the plan was always this. And what I do is I look at the head coach and I go, you know what? He's a hard-nosed guy. He's going to want to run the ball. Mike McDaniel, I'm not. He's not kind of the reason for Marion Hampton love to me. Like that's probably more in the passing game because he's probably going to quit. He's probably going to quicken up the offense a little bit. So this probably isn't a take on the offensive. So yeah, the OC change really more the team in general, and I just feel like they're going to lean on Hampton more than they did in his rookie season. And I just really, really like his situation. He projected as a very good pass catcher. He kind of had a lot of the tools that a Jahmyr Gibbs did, and I just think we're going to see it this year. And they really haven't set it up. You saw last year they had Najee Harris that we weren't even sure, whereas we 100% know who the starter is going to be this year. So I just think it's wheels up for Marion Hampton this year. I really, really like him.
Wheels up. Mate, this is one where, because I've got Hampton ranked down at 12, and that's kind of closer to where the bigger sites have got him. And honestly, I don't know I could feel comfortable drafting him higher than that. But and I don't know. I just don't know if our gap here is big enough to draw you on a Hampton water bet yet or not, because I don't know where you put the line. I'd say maybe Hampton not a top 10 running back, but at 12, I'm not even that far out of the top 10, so it's
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
hard
it's
one.
hard.
But
It's
I
hard.
feel like I really want to do something with Hampton. I
Yep.
just don't know yet.
It might be a
I don't know.
yardage total, something kind of
Mm,
yardage.
I don't know. I'm going to let them on marinate too, but I'm not done with you on Hampton yet. But where I do want to go next is to Kyron, because, mate, I have this argument with Kev almost every year. Last year, I kind of was a little more subdued on it because I was just a little nervous about what the Rams' rushing offense was going to look like last year, but I knew I still liked it. Turns out more of the same. And this year, with the research we've done into offensive lines and the way they split, turns out Rams still a really good bet. In fact, there's no better bet for a rushing offensive line than the Rams this year, thanks to Pro Football Focus's ranking. And, mate, to me, that only says it's Kyron. It's lots of Kyron. They haven't taken the volume away from him. There's very little that would show that they're going to take the volume away from him. Give me more Kyron.
Yeah, I'm with you. And what's funny, it's not so much like going against Coram, because he actually did have the uptick that all the Coram lovers wanted last year. It just kind of didn't matter to Kyron. It was funny. There was more as this defense for the Rams is getting better, and it's all that I'm going to touch on that in a second on how ridiculous this defense is going to be for the Rams this year and what that's going to mean for Kyron and Coram. Kyron went from like, was it 50 or 60 touches in his rookie year to 140. So he actually got the massive bump up. Kyron, I think, had about 40 less touches, but he actually had basically the same amount of yards. He just had a way more efficient year last year. And I think what you're going to see the same, but what you're going to see this year is because the Rams are going to be such a good team, they're going to be a very good defense. They're going to lead a lot in second halves. I think there's just going to be more rush attempts for both Kyron and Coram this year. I wouldn't be surprised if Coram even goes a little bit more north of what he had last year on the 140, but I don't think it's going to affect Kyron really at all. It's obviously going to more matter about who gets those, like, very high, like the points in the end zone, and obviously getting the red zone touches and the touchdowns. That's going to be really where Kyron needs to hit if he's going to be this like top 5, top 7 guy that you and I think he can be. But you've touched on it already. They have the best run blocking in the entire league. They are going to lead so many games. I made a little bit of a bold prediction that I think Kyron's going to lead the NFL in rushing yards this year.
Rushing, yeah.
I guess the only like hurting of that would be Coram having somewhere between 160 and 170 carries this year. But I just think as a whole, this team can have so many rush attempts that Kyron, if he's anywhere near 250, 260, I just think he's going to have such a good yards per carry on this team in this situation that he's set up for 15, 1600 yards on the ground. And if he gets himself closer to 14, 15 touchdowns on the ground, there's your top 5 back. And I've got him ranked at 7. I just think he's in for a great year, and the situation for the Rams couldn't be better for the running back position as a whole.
I mean, there's 3 places they go with the ball in the red zone. It's Kyron Williams, it's Devontae Adams, or it's one of the tight ends, right? So that's the confidence I've got for that one. Mate, yeah, I'm all in on Kyron again. And I think if Kev wants to take me, I'll have a go at him this year. So you don't have to be my human shield this year, mate. I'll go and take on the Croc Hunter. Mate, looking down the rankings from there, we get a few more of the familiar names, and some of them are names that are legacy names, and maybe they've hurt us a little in the past, and maybe we can see that that Father Time is playing its role. But I want to talk about Saquon real quickly, because neither of us have bailed on Saquon. We still have him as a top 10 back. The market still thinks he's a top 10 back. I'm at 7, you're at 10. To me, that's kind of much of a muchness. You're looking at him being a second round back. We're pretty happy with that.
Yep, their offensive line's still 8th in the league for run blocking. I just feel like it's going to be a huge part of their game again this year. If anything, getting rid of AJ Brown probably means they'll lean on the run even more. It's just what you believe in Saquon and what you believe from last year. Was it him falling off? Was it the team? Was it somewhere in the middle? I don't know. That's really up for you to decide. But I think the setup there is very good for him again this year. I don't think he's completely lost it. Do we see what we saw 2 years ago again? I don't think so, but that's why I've got him at 10 and not at 1. So that's just you know, pouring a little bit of cold water
Yeah.
on his ceiling from 2 years ago. But I still think he's on the edge of it.
I'll still own a ton of him because I'm at the 7, so I'm kind of on the higher end. So I'll probably end up with a bit more of him, and that's fine. And I don't feel bad about it. But then I feel bad about this one, Tay, because I still like Derrick Henry, and he's kind of around my 10, and he's fallen out of your top 10, Tay, even though the market has him around 8. Like, that's tough.
Yeah, I messaged you last week when I was on my holiday, kind of taking a look at some of this stuff, and then obviously, the run blocking has taken a huge part of my ranking. They lost their centre in Linderbaum, and it's actually a big reason why I think the Raiders are in a better position with their offensive line, and the Ravens are in a position. Um, it's just a funny one. Like I've been kind of laughing off everyone assuming that Henry's going to fall off the last few years. I've been the one that completely team Henry, and this again, it wasn't a bias thing from Tennessee. If anything, I've been more in on Henry at the Ravens than I ever was on the Titans because I felt
Yeah.
like he was getting devalued in fantasy because people assumed he was going to fall off. They assumed, blah blah blah, bullshit. This year, I'm just taking a look at it, and I'm just a little bit worried that this is actually the year. I don't think he falls off. I've got him at 14. It's not like he's not a relevant back. I'm just going to be a bit down on ADP this year. I think there's going to be someone else in my leagues that's going to be a bit higher on him than me. I look at that. He's got the 27th ranked run blocking for this season. Obviously, losing Linderbaum is just a massive loss in that center position. I just have my concerns, and as he gets a year older, when you watch him, yes, he has breakaway ability still, but he has these games where he kind of just runs into the arseholes of his own offensive line all game, and he can 14 to 15 to 8 yards games, and I'm just worried we might see more of those this year than we've seen before. So
Yep.
if he doesn't get the touchdown, then you're really disappointed because he's never been a big pass catcher. So yeah, I'll put him at 14. I'm going to be lower than most, but I don't think he just falls off a cliff completely. I just have my concerns.
And to be honest, like we're very Saquon-esque here, is that you're on the lower end of where the biggest sites consensus is of where Derrick Henry's range is, and I'm kind of on the higher end because I don't know, I've still got nostalgia, I guess, and without a second bona fide player in that backfield, it's just if he's healthy, it's going to be Derrick Henry. So I'm still pretty comfortable with that, and it's essentially saying the difference here is I'd be still pretty comfortable taking him in the second round if it was late in the second round, but you're much more like, if he doesn't get a third round, I'm probably not touching him.
Yep. No, that's just how it is. It's not saying that he's going to completely fall off. It's just that there's probably, as I mentioned, there's probably going to be at least one person in my league that likes him more than I. So I'm probably not going
Like,
to end up with him.
who even are you? My God.
I know.
You mentioned the Raiders a moment ago with Linderbaum, and it's exactly where I want to go next
Yeah.
because I think that the Raiders' coaching changes really matter for their running game. It completely matter for their running game. We saw that Genty last year, he got touches. Problem was, team was a real shambles. He could go anywhere with it. He had one game where he kind of blew some of the stats up a little bit in the early part of the year and had a few touchdowns in the same day. Then kind of had the resurfacing, and then kind of came out again toward the end of the year as the world was changing a bit for them. And I think that he already has proof as a rookie that the workload was real. Like 270 touches
Yep.
is no joke, just really inefficient. This year, I still think he gets the carries. I still think he ends up with 280 odd carries, but I just expect he's going to be more efficient with the yardage. It's the Pete Carmichael thing. It's the Clint Kubiak thing. I think those two just bring more structure and order, and they've already got the super talented back. So bring in the scheme that we've seen. Kubiak has been able to move that ball on the ground from a very successful offense. Bringing that to a place where we've already got a player who's really talented and strong in those areas, to me, just kind of means that I'm going to see progression and I'm buying it.
I think you're getting a fair few people in the market at the moment kind of keeping Genty from a full breakout because I think they still think of this offensive line as that shitty offensive line from last year. And
Mm-mm.
nail on the head. There's two main reasons to believe why it's changed. Linderbaum at center, I've already brought him up, multiple times in the Ravens with Derrick Henry, but it is Kubiak, and I brought this up last year with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. Is Kubiak
Mm.
has they actually had a far worse offensive line for run blocking at Seattle last year, which is hard to believe considering they won the Super Bowl. But they weren't actually set up for success. But Kubiak has all these different schemes that can get around it. And I really feel like that's going to help Genty this year. And you actually look, they're ranked 11th for run blocking. So you can already tell that this offensive line isn't what everyone thinks it is. So I do wonder if people are thinking that you might actually get a little bit of not a price drop, because everyone knows about Genty. Everyone expects a bit of a bounce back in year two. So it's not like he's going to like drop out of like some relevance. It's just that I feel like if you're in on Genty and you think a real breakout's happening, I think you're not going to have to pay an absurd price. I think it's there for you if you're really in. I've ranked him at 9, so I probably neither really fully in or left out. I really am keen on him, and I wouldn't be surprised if in this group he is the one that has the massive breakout into that top 3. But yeah, I really think if you really have conviction on Genty, rank him in your top 5 and just take him there. I really think that there's a chance that he could have a massive year this year. Obviously, don't take him there if you've got a chance of getting him in your second round. Take someone in the bona fide top 5 and let him fall to you in the second round. Yeah, I really do think there's a chance that he has a massive year.
I mean, I think you can get him later in the second round too, in that across major sites, he's kind of 7, 8 in that kind of range. We've got him at like 9, 10. So we're a little cooler than market, but like we can see the potential. So I guess depending on how your draft board breaks, you or I may also be picking him up in that middle part of the second round.
Can I just play one devil's advocate? And it's the only thing that
Come on, please.
Well, we really should be talking some negatives about the players. I feel like we come on and we say, well, we've got a guy ranked where we do, it's general. I mean, I did talk about Henry, so there was some negative.
You gave Henry an absolute bath a minute ago, mate. Come on.
We had Genty like 15. I recently moved him into that top 10. My devil's advocate for why Genty doesn't work out is that I talk about Kubiak's system and why it works even with a bad offensive line. The problem is he generally likes to have at least 2 backs. And yes, they don't have like someone I'm looking at behind him who I'm thinking, oh, he's definitely going to take snaps off Genty. I do think he's going to have a good workload. But even like they got Mike Washington, in the draft. Concern so much isn't volume, it's what do they do at the goal line? Do they all of a sudden think, well, we don't need Genty to be scoring the touchdowns, we just need him, with all the volume in the middle of the field, and then all of a sudden we can bring in a bruiser or whatever, like a Charbonnet from Seattle? Does someone else actually take over that goal line and you're not getting the high, the higher fantasy points, in the actual red zone with the touchdowns? So that's my only advocate for Genty, is that do we actually see more backs in the backfield be not fantasy relevant, but relevant enough on field to actually stop this full Genty breakout happening? So just temper your expectations a little bit there.
Okay.
If you go out and you see Genty 30 carries and the next back has got 3, then yeah, you're in for a good season.
Yeah. And I don't know, there's a part of me that kind of feels like that's probably more what I'm expecting, is that Genty's going to be the very, very heavily tilted to back. And I don't know that there's necessarily going to be like okay, it's the red zone team, let's bring on the big old goal line back sort of situation. I feel pretty comfortable that they'll keep running him out. But I mean, it remains to be seen, because this is the thing, right? When you get the new coaching staff and new philosophies, some of the things we think we know don't always come up. And, we all think we fucking know everything at this time of year, Tay. We've had our noses in the books.
You guys are idiots on the best. That we all know it.
Yeah. Well, mate, we'll see how the best you are, because you are super in to a man you just mentioned, Kenneth Walker. He's now found himself a new home. He's actually gone to Kansas City, where there's a bit of a void too, because Pacheco's now up in Detroit, which I'd actually almost completely forgotten about. And Manjot had to pull me up on the other night. And mate, I don't know that Kareem Hunt is fit to do anything except fit more donuts in. He was looking pretty large last year. And I think his career somehow has been really quite good, considering the trouble he found himself in early. And this means that there's, on a football and a fantasy sense here, there is a lot to get eaten up in Kansas. But if you're so keen that Mahomes is going to have such a good year with a short passing game, how is there still room for Kenneth Walker to be in your top 10? Talk me through it.
Well, it's funny because I had him ranked at 4 initially, and then I did cool myself a
Oh,
little bit. And
my
what's weird
God.
is I've got him at 8 now, where I still thought I was actually quite high. And then I looked at his ADP and sleeper, and it was 6. And I'm like, I'm actually behind ADP now. I'm like, okay, somehow I'm not this guy that's super in on him apparently. But look, the reasons to me for Kenneth Walker are a little bit different than some of the reasons why I've already talked about guys that I've liked already. It isn't so much like a run blocking scheme. I think they're ranked 22nd or 23rd or something, the Chiefs. It's not a situation where I'm looking at it, oh, he's just got a guaranteed, path through the middle there. It's more the way this team's set up to me. I really think they're just going to be completely reliant on two guys in the offense. I really do think that Rasheed Rice and Walker, and that's it. I really feel like they're going to have to run through those two the entire time. And the big thing for me is that to me, the guys that have failed there at the running back position that super disappointed in, it's been more like taking shots in the draft or taking like later round guys or not really paying guys, bringing in a Kareem Hunt for a swan song. It's like they haven't really gone out and paid a dude like this. And to me, that signals what their intentions are with Andy Reid. I really do think they're going to use Kenneth Walker more like you saw like the first time around with Kareem Hunt. Like I've just always been a Walker fan, and to me, it's always been about him getting volume. He didn't get the full volume that we wanted to at Seattle because, like I talked about with Kubiak, they ran that sort of system where it was basically Walker from between the 20s and then Charbonnet got all those touches in the red zone. I really don't see that happening here. I feel like Walker is just the bona fide one and he's getting everything. So I just think that Mahomes, with his situation, coming off the ACL tear, I just think it's a lot of dump offs to Walker and slants to Rasheed Rice, and I just think that's the way that they're going to move upfield this entire at least start here. So yeah, I'm really really high on Walker. I just really like his situation.
Yeah, and what made me nervous about Walker was just how little volume we saw from him last year and how little impact he had in fantasy scoring last year. So I'm kind of gonna need to see it in this new environment, and I'm only colder for that reason. I just have too many questions still, so I'm very much cooler on him, and I kind of almost feel like this would be the perfect opportunity for you to come and bully me into a water bet on him because I sure don't want to be the one sticking my chin out on him. He was averaging 11 fantasy points a game or something last year. I'm like, that is not good
Yeah.
enough.
Oh, I killed it, and that's where I'm planting my flag. Is that his volume completely changes on the Chiefs that it did for Seattle last year. That's really where I'm planting my flag. If he gets the same volume he got at Seattle, then this will be one of the worst picks in fantasy. It seriously will. Like it has to change.
I mean, I saw what he did when Charbonnet wasn't around. And I think this is the part that enamors people is they're like, oh, the part where we saw him tearing it up in the playoffs. It's like, but the playoffs aren't the fantasy season. And he's
No,
not at a Seattle that doesn't have Charbonnet this year. So, like, I kind of feel like some of the things that you saw last year you can kind of throw out. But also, he's coming into the system where we haven't seen some of the characteristics you're saying. We haven't seen Kansas City pay up for a running back. They had Kareem Hunt, who they took as a lower draft pick because he was from a not, popular college. He was from Toledo, which is not a big school. And then they've been trotting up Pacheco, who is a seventh round pick for the last few years. So this is very untypical for Kansas. So I 100% understand the philosophy behind you saying, look, big investment, big opportunity, and the unique circumstance of Mahomes coming off this pretty bad injury. Things probably need to stay close to the line of scrimmage, and I totally understand that. So I'm just playing I need to see it, but
Yep.
do I move on before you try and drag me into something?
No, it's like I don't mind us just going through it and then just if we need to circle back about it. Where do you actually have him ranked?
I have him at 14.
Yeah, okay, not too bad.
I just don't want people to say, "Hey, Kenneth Walker." It's just I don't know. That's the thing. I just don't know, and I don't want to throw my chips behind him if I don't know. I'd rather be taking other people, and I honestly would probably advise people to look at other places too. And that's really my rankings is kind of my advisory panel.
Good thing is we can look at at the end of all these, like, ranking shows and see where we're the furthest away, and we can chat about it. We can even advise people when we've actually made our water bets. They probably don't have to happen on the spot. Sometimes the funnest one to do, where we just decide, screw it, we're going to actually make this happen right now. But in the end, they don't have to happen straight away.
I think there's a couple that where we're going to end up planting a flag tonight, mate.
Yeah,
I
for
really
sure.
do. I just think there's a couple where the numbers are big differences.
But it's super
They
duper
don't
obvious. Yeah.
they don't start straight away, though, because this is a guy that we've both unanimously been pretty happy with. We are both ranking this guy at 11. His name's Chase Brown, and he is sort of somewhere between 8 and 13 across the market. The big sites, he's getting his ADPs in that sort of range. And he has the unique problem of having a terrible pass blocking team, but also a terrible run blocking team. Yet the ecosystem for fantasy points there still flourishes. I call this the Chase Brown anomaly. How is this so?
And when it goes wrong, it's so wrong, and it's so frustrating. Like last year, I was so high on him. Like he was probably the running back I had the most shares of. And what was hilarious was I refused to sell. I had that many offers to like try and buy low on him last year. I even remember buying him in SuperCoach halfway through, like bringing him back and trying to get back on that train, and it worked out. Like I had came over wet sail and SuperCoach. He literally won me every single league I won last year. Chase Brown was one of my running backs. It was just the way things turned for him was amazing. Obviously, the Burrow injury just cruelled him, because a huge part of this is to get over the bad offensive line play, he needs a high-powered offense. And when Burrow wasn't there, yes, Flacco put in and had decent games, but it's not the same. Like when Burrow's not there, you're just not going to get the same Chase Brown. It's just not how it is. So, yeah, he's in this unique situation. You could probably chuck HN in this scenario too, where they've got horrendously bad offensive lines, but you sort of trust more in the pass catching for them more so than anything. But the problem, I guess, like if you just lump HN into this, is I think Chase Brown's going to be in the red zone a lot more than the Dolphins are for HN. So that's why I actually have Brown ahead of him, because I really do feel like they're the same player with a lot of the same things around them, but just the difference is the offense, and it's a pretty solid difference between the Bengals and the Dolphins. I don't think it really gets a bigger chasm to bring the chasms back between two offenses. So, yeah, I do like Chase Brown again this year, because I just think he's a lot of work in the passing game again in a high-powered offense.
Yeah, and I think HN is the perfect person to draw into this. He's the next person I want to bring up anyway as well, because he's kind of the one missing piece from this top dozen or so that we've talked about.
Yeah.
And they do suffer from the similar kind of, I don't know, disease of they're just being very little about their offensive line play that's appealing. But I think the problem HN has got is that there's almost nothing else on that offense that's appealing, and he's kind of going to have to drag the team kicking and screaming. So volume is going to be important to him, but it's harder for me to trust. And while he has got an ADP of between sort of 6 and 8, I am just not able to do it. And I've got him at 9, and I may even drop him further than that. You got him down at 12, and I
I've
don't
got him
hate
at
it.
12. And honestly, I'm glad we talked about Chase Brown in the lead up, because that's actually the guy I looked at, and I was like, I was sort of almost talking it through as we were talking about Chase Brown, but I just looked at the exact same. They have got both horrendously shit run blocking offensive lines. They both rely on pass catching, but one has a far better offense, and one's going to be in the red zone a lot more. And so why would I? Yes, I do believe HN will probably catch more passes total. But again, I can't even fully trust that, because we've got to change at quarterback with Malik Willis. And, what are his, like, if he's smart, he'll get HN involved, but we can't fully guarantee it. So I don't know. I just felt like there were way more ticks in the Chase Brown side than there are for HN this year. I really do think this Dolphins team might be one of the worst NFL teams we've seen in a long, long time. They are going to be getting boat raced and not in a lot of I guess you could say it is positive fate, and even though running backs like to lead games, because you're the pass catcher, you are going to be in a situation where you get a lot of dump offs. So he will catch a shitload of passes to give him the baseline. I just don't think touchdown upsides there for him at all, whereas Chase Brown, we know it is.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing. Like, if I'm going to invest a pick that high, I need less question marks, and I've got less question marks about Chase Brown than I do about HN, even though they've kind of got some similar some similar fungus growing on them. I don't know where I pulled that from. Fungus, fantasy fungus. This is kind of where now I think there's a whole different sort of break around this area. I think some of these guys, depending on what your flavor is, you might push them up or down. But I think this is roughly the area where now we branch into kind of the third tranche of guys. And some of the names in this range are guys like Josh Jacobs and Javonte Williams, Breece Hall. So some of these guys are, I think largely, we know who they are. We know what to expect from them. I'm really partial to Javonte Williams. He was one of those rare running backs last year who had 10 rushing touchdowns, and he had in the range of 40 receptions as well. And I just have not got any reason to think that he can't produce those things again. So I'm really comfortable with that 15 ranking I gave him. You put him right in the same spot. Kind of similar confidences.
Yep. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he finished there. That's honestly the way I look at him. I'm like, probably don't quite see him. Look, would I be surprised if he's just in the top 12 and he is a RB1? No, I actually wouldn't. But I do think his like ceiling and floor is actually quite close to each other. Like, I really do see him as that running through mold. Like, he just is going to have enough volume in a high-powered offense that are going to be in the red zone a lot, a la Chase Brown, but they've got a far better offensive line for run blocking. I think they're 10th for this year per PFF. So, yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of reasons to like Javonte, and I just think he's going to have the volume to always be at least an RB2.
And say what you will about that Dallas team, or what do you think about the defense, or what do you think about Dak or whatever. But if I left a draft with Javonte as my running back 2, I'm really happy with that. I would not want him as my running back 1. Okay, so if I'm searching that far down the fishbowl for my running back 1, I don't know that Javonte gives me what I would need in this range to be my running back 1. But also, I don't know that Jacobs does either. I've got him ranked just that little bit higher. But Green Bay's offensive line is not. It's not great. It's not even good.
So bad. It really was one that surprised me, and that's why I love looking at this stuff, like looking at the rankings, because if I just blindly done my rankings on Jacobs, I probably would have had him higher. Obviously, there's the off-field stuff, but I really, really don't think that's going to take effect this year. So I'm kind of just leaving that for what it is. And what it is we just don't know. So, but yeah, their offensive line is literally last for pass blocking, and it's like below the middle of the pack for run blocking. Like, it really isn't. Definitely not a strength. So I do like him enough, because what sometimes I look at is I go, all right, yes, they don't have an amazing run blocking scheme or offensive line, but it is so much better than their pass blocking that they're probably still going to have to win on it. And they're probably going to be good enough to win at least half their games. So it's like, all right, that's probably going to give him enough of a baseline to be running the clock out at least half the season. He's always good in the red zone, because honestly, with how bad that offensive line is protecting Jordan Love, they're going to have to probably utilize him in the red zone a lot. So I just think it's going to be one of those ones where I could see him having not like an amazing yards per carry. He'll probably just volume his way to over 1,000 yards, and I wouldn't be surprised if he still finds a way to have 10 to 12 touchdowns. So that's probably why I've got him at 13. That's probably the range he's going to fit.
It's funny because that's exactly where I've got him to, and I just think the same thing. He is their red zone plan. That's it. I don't trust Christian Watson. I don't trust any other part of their offense in the red zone. And Jordan Love is going to have his work cut out for him just staying upright this year with how bad that line is. Look, and we're not going to talk about every player in this range and every spot, but there are 2 guys I really need to draw you on in this range. One of them is a new player to the NFL, Jadarian Price. He goes to this Seattle team, which we talked about how Kenneth Walker had such success towards the end of last year. And even though they haven't ever been a highly rated offensive line, just the way Kubiak was able to move things around that offense to make both Walker and Charbonnet effective has been impressive. Jadarian Price doesn't get the benefit of Kubiak there. So what gives you the confidence with him? You have him ranked at 16.
This is the guy that every time we've done a mock draft, I've got him. He's falling in that range where I just don't really like a lot of other guys that are around him at ADP, and I like him so much more. I trust the Seattle team. Yes, Kubiak's not there, but they still are the Super Bowl champs, and they're going to work it out. They're going to be leading a lot of games. They're going to be needing to lead on the run. There really isn't anyone else there. Charbonnet is not going to be healthy to start the season. I think it's like George Halani, I think, might be the running back too. He'll get some work, but there's no way like a Super Bowl winning team spent their first-round draft pick on a position that they're not going to use. It just doesn't make any sense. You've got to read the tea leaves here. I've made the proclamation. I think Jadarian Price is going to be more fantasy relevant than Jeremiah Love. I'm not getting I'm probably getting less hate for that than I probably thought I would. Some people think it's obvious because he's going to a better team. Others think it's stupid because of the draft capital and stuff. But in the end, like I just think that his situation is so much better. Like we'll talk about Love later. I just feel like he's in a hodgepodge of shit. And the fact is that Arizona they've got no incentive to win this year at all. They're trying to almost get last so they get a quarterback next year. So it's not a team that wants to win anyway, whereas Jadarian Price is the complete opposite. There's a team that wants to win. It's a team that wants to run the ball. It's a team that just took him in the first round. He's ticking so many boxes for me. And how many times do we see these first-round running backs get a huge bump up, for their first season in redraft, but for some reason Jadarian Price isn't. I don't understand it. Yes, he didn't get the top 10, but he's still a first rounder. Yes, first round, but it's literally this team's first round pick. So they obviously saw what they needed to win him, and I just think he's going to get a minute of work. Why would I take him? I just think he gets a lot more work than the guys that are around him in this area of the draft, and I trust the team he's on. So yeah, I'm going for it.
And like me in the draft doctrine, mate, you've just gone, here's the path, it's proof. And mate, I love that because I didn't have the stones for Jadarian Price, and here you are giving me all the reasons why I probably need to look at my ranking again. I've kind of sat him around, kind of where market's looking at him in that sort of late 20s. So I probably need to have a think about that again. This is great value in talking to you about that because this is one where the gap is huge. And again, I'm not going to chase you on one there because I probably need to do a little bit more, I guess reflection on it. But initially, my feelings haven't been good about that situation, so I've kind of erred on the side of keep the fuck away.
I'm hoping the market doesn't do what you just said, and they just are happy to leave him at that 27 because, like already proven in like every mock draft we have done, I am going to sweep him up everywhere because, like where he's going in drafts, it almost feels like a free base. Like it feels like I almost can't miss on him because if I'm taking him in like the 8th round, it's like he might be my running back 3, 4. It feels like I can't miss anyway. It's like he comes out, he has rookie pains, and he's not an amazing pick. So be it. It's not going to kill my season. But if he comes out and plays like I am expecting him to play in this situation, I could have an absolute steal of the draft. So I just really.
We'll do, and this is another thing that I like to talk about too, and I brought up in the draft doctrine is the evolution of the behavior in a draft. And it sounds like this is one of those ones where the stakes are lower by that stage, so you can afford to take a bit of a ceiling shot. But a couple of the other guys in this area that I want to talk about really quickly were Travis Etienne. He's behind the worst rushing blocking team in the league, but they've actually got a fairly good passing blocking offense, and I like that. To me, I think Etienne is going to take up the majority of the workload there, but he is just such an adept pass catching back. He did all these things for LSU. He did these things for years at the Jags, and I just kind of feel like if you were ever going to move away from a player like Kamara, a guy like Etienne coming in to me is about as good as there is on market. I just kind of love the move.
What's the guy of his name? Is it Travis Achan Jr. now or something? I swear he changed his name.
God.
Yeah, I don't know. I've still been calling Etienne and writing him down in my rankings as Etienne, but I swear, because I heard it like another podcast or something. I thought they were joking. Like, I thought it was a joke, but then apparently he actually is changing. But I've got no idea.
I'll wait till I see it on his jersey, I think. Yeah. Because I don't know. You remember all that talk about like Tyrod Taylor and Alvin Kamara, and none of these things ever turn in anything. So I don't know.
A-Chain. I was going anyway. But look, just for the player himself, I'm really high on the Saints. Like, I really do feel like this team's in for a far better year. Kellen Moore, the OC, I do think they are going to move the ball quick. And honestly, ETN, HN, whatever the fuck you want to call him, he
that guy.
At least he's a very good pass catcher, so he can get around the fact they've got a shit offensive line, a la Chase Brown and the other HN. Are they brothers now? I've got no idea.
They're all HNs, yeah.
Brothers. Yeah.
Super HN brothers.
So, like, I've got him in like mid-20s, but again, that's probably following my sort of analysis on the actual run blocking itself. But I wouldn't be surprised. I am a little bit like annoyed slash worried that they still kept Kamara. Like, it's not that I think
Uh,
Kamara is relevant. It's just that it's enough to be annoying to him. So it's like, if he takes 20 receptions over the entire year and I don't know, 90 to 100 rush attempts. It just takes it away from his ceiling, which is a bit annoying. So that also kind of threw me off the trail a little bit. But look, I do like the Saints offense. So this is one I'm more than happy to be wrong about. I'm like, if the Saints are just rolling, I will be stoked because I'm a big Tyler Shuck and Chris Olave guy,
mm,
obviously. So
yeah.
if ETN slash ATN's having a good year, then it means those guys probably are too.
Tune in next week for the Shakalave podcast, by the way, that is coming.
That
Just do not
just
adjust your
gets this
dial.
going.
Oh my gosh. Moist of the noise for everyone there. The other couple of guys in this range I wanted to mention really quickly was guys like Travion Henderson, Chuba Hubbard, who, both you and I have been pretty happy with over time. I probably need to adjust him up a little bit too. Once I looked at my rankings today and I went, God, am I really that low? I mean, I'm probably a little higher than the market, but I kind of feel like his offensive situation's better than anyone's giving him credit for. And somehow I've just piled guys in front of him that have knocked him down. So I probably need to go and give him a move up. But for him to be in that really sturdy running back, edge of running back to a flex role, God, I'd love to have him as my flex in terms of he's going to be behind what we think is going to work out to being about the fourth or fifth best rushing offensive line. And the Panthers actually have a surprisingly good passing offensive line too this year. We think they're going to
Yeah.
score points, Tate.
Yeah, and I just think last year, like I liked him for last year. The Rico Dowdle thing happened. That was just a bit of a anomaly that it was hard to really see coming. And then Rico just kind of took over the role, and then it kind of ended up a split. And I still believe in Chuba. They paid him. I still think he's the one. Jonathan Brooks, everyone just wants to anoint because everyone wants to see the story. It's like he's had the
Yeah.
multiple ACL tears. I think it's more like an emotional thing to people wanting to see
Oh,
Brooks come in because of the
yeah.
draft capital they spent on everything. But if anything, if that's the backup in that situation, it makes me a little bit more interested in Hubbard because, like last year, I think there's less chance of Brooks coming in and doing what Rico Dowdle did to Hubbard. So I really do
Agree.
think that Hubbard's going to have a better opportunity to actually utilize that offensive line this season than he did last season. Like, I do think, like, his ceiling probably isn't super high. Like, I've got him sitting at that 20. I reckon his ceiling's probably more about like running back 10. But like you said, if he's your flex,
Agreed.
I really feel like that's a good flex play. I feel like a lot of people don't love him, so he's going to be at a good price in drafts. So yeah, he's just another one that I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm super duper high on him, but I do think I'll have him in a few leagues because I'm ahead of consensus.
Yeah, I probably will too because I just think, if he could be my third running back, I kind of feel like I've broken the draft room a bit. So if he's still there and I'm looking for a third running back, fucking watch out. The other two in this range who I need to talk to you about specifically, Tay, and I feel like you know this is coming. There's a Denver running back. J.K. Dobbins is the one that you want to talk about. Everyone wants to talk about R.J. Harvey. You don't. You want to talk about J.K. Dobbins. I want to hear it because, mate, I also am a big J.K. Dobbins apologist. I've loved him since the minute he came into the league, and he's been so horrendously injured. He's now become a journeyman. But there's some things about Denver that make sense for him, and you kind of feel like people are looking in the wrong direction.
You could copy and paste whatever I talked about him in the preseason last year. And honestly, I was right. I was pretty adamant that I was taking him over RJ Harvey in the draft last year. I talked about how ridiculously good this offense. They were kind of almost the start of me really analyzing offensive lines and run blocking last year. I didn't go to as many actually getting the data specific as I have this year. But Denver were a huge target of mine in the run game because of that. And the reason was because I felt like I was getting this value on J.K. Dobbins far higher than the perceived one in the market of RJ Harvey, just because they obviously took him high in the draft. They brought in J.K. Dobbins for a reason, and the fact they brought him back even off an injury from last year proves that they really really like him. And he like Peyton doesn't give a shit about draft capital. Like Peyton's going to play whoever's the guy that he thinks is going to get the job done, and it's pretty clear that J.K. Dobbins is the starter in this team. So if you're getting a guy that's going like in the 30s at ADP, he's the starter for a Denver Broncos team. I personally have winning the Super Bowl as a prediction. I had them making the Super Bowl last year, and honestly, I feel like I was robbed. I feel like that was a premonition that probably should have come true. But I have them winning the AFC this is I feel like they got slightly better on offense with Waddle coming in. The defense is still amazing, and that offensive line just tears teams apart. It gives the opportunity for a guy like Dobbins just to run free. Yes, he's a huge injury risk. Other guys are too. So I like to project health, and while he's on that field, he's going to have a very big yards per carry. And so yeah, I just really like him. Got him at 18, I believe. Like he's going in the mid 30s, I think, at ADP. Like he is a huge value to me.
Yeah, they both are. They both are. And it's almost like, do you remember years ago when we had that year where we just didn't know what to do with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin? And it was just like, the advice we gave people was, whoever's cheapest in your draft, get that guy. And it turned out the correct answer was Mike Evans, and we fucking should have known all along. I think that's what's happening here. We all actually know the answer is J.K. Dobbins, but I haven't been brave enough to stick my neck out like you have, and you've got J.K. Dobbins. Clear the room for this one. At 18, the world has him outside the top 30, me included. So buoy to you, mate, because if this one comes off, woo, I love it. I haven't had the stones to do it, but I understand the blocks are there because this is a team who have the third best PFF graded run blocking and the first PFF graded pass blocking. So this is an offense that I don't know that they're going to be a 30-point a game team. I don't know that.
They don't need to be.
I know Knicks is going to have about 4,000 yards passing, and I know they're going to score points, and I know their defense is pretty good. It's not what it was in some of the previous years where they've had really, really, really amazing defenses, but this one's still better than average. So it's hard to know whether they're going to need to score 34 points to win games. But you got to have a bet on someone. You're really sticking your neck out on J.K. Dobbins, and it's hard not to love it. I just haven't. I just haven't had the stones, mate.
It's a draft cost thing again, where like if I'm getting him in the 30s at running back, the worry about his injuries is kind of subsided by the fact that he's like probably running back like 4 or something anyway. Like again, I feel like I'm getting this massive value on a guy that when he plays is a huge value, and if he misses some games, through injury, then so be it. I'm not relying on him anyway. So yeah, I just feel like it's a huge draft day cost, and yeah, I honestly think he's easily in that top 20 when he plays behind that offensive line.
Well, I do like your case on that, but I'm going to need something really compelling here because guy you've got right behind him at 19, and this is the second guy in this two-pack of guys late in your running back 2 range here that I'm going to need some clarity on. Dave Montgomery has been a Lion for a while. Before that, he was a Bear, and he was pretty good. He's pretty good at both. He's now in Houston, and you are the highest on him I've seen anywhere. And depending on the site you look at, you're either considerably higher or quite a lot higher. The nearest I've seen anywhere is about 24, so you're still a good 5 spots higher than even the most optimistic. But why? What's giving you that confidence after we didn't really see Houston get it together offensively last year?
No, but I kind of take a look at Joe Mixon from 2 years ago, and there are a lot of question marks. Older back coming from another team, like the offensive line was absolutely dog shit then. If anything, it's better now. Like it could not have been worse than when he rocked in. It was literally ranked last. So the fact that he still had good success for the Texans in this regime on the ground, like I actually probably consider David Montgomery a slightly better back than Mixon at this point. So I just think he can get a lot done with this team. I think it's been blown out of proportion, the Woody Marks thing. There was some chat that they reckon they're going to be 50-50. I just don't think they go and pay Montgomery for that. I think that's silly. I just think it's coach talk and a coach not wanting to put down one of his players. I really do think Montgomery's the lead back and going to have the majority of the work there. Look, the offensive line for run blocking is actually not too shabby. It's actually slightly above average. So I do actually put that as a feather in the cap, especially compared to some of the other years that the Texans have had with their offensive line. So, yeah, I just think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns. I think they're going to know he's an amazing bruiser. They know that he's going to be by the goal line. So if he's getting much work and he's getting all the goal line work, then I just feel like that's a recipe for success in fantasy. I won't say that, like, it's a funny one because yes, my ranking spits out and it's ahead of ADP. I
Yeah.
still don't look at him like this guy that I feel like I'm fully in on though. It's like one of these ones that I see the path for him. I just brought it up now. I may end up with some because I like him obviously ahead of some of the guys in this range. But I also do see the downsides. Like I see devil's advocates. I see the fact this Texans offense to me isn't going to be prevalent. I do think they're going to be in low scoring games. Yes, that can be good for running backs because there's a lot of run attempts, but I do think that he does have a high ceiling because I don't think there's going to be a lot of red zone opportunities. I don't think they're going to be scoring a lot of points. I do think they're going to lean on their defense a lot. So yeah, I don't think he has a huge ceiling. I don't think he's going to break fantasy or something. I do think he's going to be worse at the Texans than he probably was from a touchdown standpoint that he was at Detroit because that was such a great opportunity. But I just kind of in that sort of 20. I just obviously like it more than others at ADP, but I'm not shouting from a rooftop saying that I absolutely do. Whereas 2 years ago when he first went to Detroit, I was like, this guy's the most like running back all
Yeah.
time. I actually called him to lead the league in touchdowns 2 years ago, and I think he got like third. I think
He
he
was
got
pretty
injured
close.
near the end of the year. Yeah, he had a massive year, and everyone was like losing their minds because they drafted Gibbs and Monty was getting all the touchdowns, and I felt like I called that. So yeah, I'm not. I don't feel like I'm super high on him, but I kind of am, if that makes sense. It's just one of those ones where the numbers kind of spat out, and he was around 20.
But this is the thing, like, and you're not apologizing for it. And you go, oh, gee, I better revise myself down. You go, well, actually, I've got reasons for it. And this is that path proof, routes to points, reasons. And I love it. I feel like I've got that with my boy Scatterbo next, mate. I've got him ranked at 18. The world's a little cooler than that. But, mate, you are ridiculously cooler than that. You're down at 28. And this is one I'm going to take you to task on because I don't mind a bit of Scatterboo. And there's a couple of reasons why, right? Cover this in the draft doctrine, and I want to make sure I get the points across here too, that they've got enough coaching change there to me that brings a deliverable difference. You bring in a guy like John Harbaugh, who's spent his whole life developing great running games. You also bring across Matt Nagy, who's no slouch with an offense. He's not the head coach. He's the offensive coordinator still. I'm very comfortable with Nagy in that role. I don't want to see him as the head coach of a team where I'm picking a running back and saying he's going to be top 20 back. Where he hasn't proven that he's a top 20 back over the course of the season before. For Cam Scatterboo, we reckon he's going to end up with 60% of the carry share and meaningful involvement in the passing game. Do you know last year he averaged 16 PPR points per game? Not bad for a guy who played half the season. So, look, to me, he doesn't need to become Christian McCaffrey. He's already got a more stable structure to me than I saw last year, but he already shows he's got the wherewithal to take his touches and turn them into points. For me, he's just got more scaffolding around how he does that. So I'm after Scatterboo this year. And I don't know, Tay, I need you to tell me why this guy won't be a top 20 back because I'm going to water bet you this guy will be a top 20 back if you're going to tell me otherwise.
It's just the start of the season that concerns me a little bit. He's coming off a pretty gruesome injury. I would be absolutely shocked that they use this young guy into the ground off that injury at the start of the year. They've still got Tracy there that I think is going to get a decent workload to start the season. Their offensive line doesn't grade too well in run blocking. I think it's 24th. I just had different reasons as to why I wasn't super high on him to start the year. Like it's one of those ones where you know what I think would be a funny thing to do? I've talked to you about how I reckon Jadarian Price is going to start the season amazing. What I reckon you could do is I reckon you could draft Jadarian Price, don't draft Scatterboo. I reckon in week 8, I reckon you should try and trade Jadarian Price off an amazing first 7 weeks for Scatterboo, who may have split with Tracy. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I do think that it's going to be a slower start for him. Trade Jadarian Price for Scatterboo and something else because I feel like Price is going to be ahead of him at that time and it's going to seem like a silly one-for-one trade. And then I think Scatterboo could take off. So it's going to be a hard one for me to even want to water bet because over an entire season, I can see it beating my thing. I guess with my rankings, I look at it more from the side of where I'm drafting players, not so much where I think they're going to have the entire season. So that's my concern is that I just don't think it's a great start for him. I
Okay.
just don't know exactly what it looks like off that injury, but I find
Okay.
it hard to fully out on him because he was just such a beast last year. It was just insane. So, yeah, I don't know if I want to be on the other side of that, but I do think it's going to be a slow start to the season.
See, this is why I don't want him in Supercoach Classic, right? Because his points per game is too good. His points per game is too good. But it's precisely why I want him as a fellow who's, he's being drafted well outside the top 20 at the moment at running back. So this is why I want him, is because I think he immediately is going to be much more worthwhile than that. And mate, between he and Jackson Dart and just the attitude of that team is just, everybody hates us and we're just going to tough it out. And I just kind of, I don't know, there's something about that attitude I kind of really love being from Queanbeyan, growing up next to Canberra. I think that's kind of what it is.
Eating crayons.
Yeah, mate, I ate plenty of crayons as a kid. Let me tell you, my sister would tell you that. Probably because she freaking fed them to me. But yeah, so that's my case for Scatterboo. I understand. I respect why you don't want to go after it straight away because it sounds like to me, like you see there's a path there. Your trepidation is more about the immediacy of it, and I'm cool with that. Mate, I want to get your thoughts on Jeremiah Love because early on, straight
Yeah.
after the draft in the NFL, and as soon as fantasy mock drafts open, he was sky high. That he was getting drafted well inside the top 10. You couldn't find a site that had him outside the top 10. He has cooled significantly. We immediately put the brakes on. I have him down at 19. You have him at 22. What's led to the drop in confidence across the market, and especially with yourself?
And this is another one where I don't think he'll finish at 22. I'm sure he'll find a way. It'll be another one of
Maybe.
these ones where wouldn't be surprised if it's similar to Scatterboo, where he kind of finally just takes over the role in the second half of the year. The team doesn't give a shit and they're just dumping it off to him 100 times. So it's where I'm drafting guys and where I kind of see them for the first half of the year more than over an entire season. I just like they've already named James Conner, I believe, as their starter. They've paid Algier. The
So
team has
weird.
no idea what the fuck they're doing. Like their offensive line sucks. They just go
And they don't
put
have a quarterback.
as Jacoby Brissett, who's like the like mediocre holdout of all time. Like this team absolutely dumped the fire, and that's what worries me. Is you go to this hodgepodge like guy like 4-pack of running backs, and I just don't know exactly what the split's like. And if I
Oh
don't
my
even
god.
know what it's like for one of the worst teams in the NFL, I'm just not going to rank this guy anywhere near where he's going to go. So I just sort of spat out a number of 22. It was just really a number for me to prove that I'm out on him, and I'm just not
Yep.
going to have him at all anywhere this year. I'd rather just leave it. And honestly, the way I play, I might look to maybe try and trade for him halfway through the year because, like I said, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes the year okay. But yeah, it just doesn't fit a lot of the draft criteria.
I am also sharing the nerves and skepticism. And I think the pattern that emerges from the way I've drafting running back and the way I'm ranking my running back is if you've got a lot of question marks, I'm probably out. And I'm probably going to actively recommend to people to be skeptical. Where others might have question marks, but I feel like I've got the path and I've got the proof to be confident. I'm not just going to rank the player there. You're going to see me drafting them there. I'm 100%, putting my money where my mouth is on my running backs this year because I feel like in a lot of ways it's probably the clearest I've been on running back in my own mind for a long time. So I've got my confidence in places where some people don't. You're quite the same, and we're not putting our confidences all in the same places too, which I love. And it's very true on some of these guys. So I think it's good that we're aligned on a guy like that because I feel like, yeah, well, we go through a lot of the same processes in trying to get our information. So a lot of guys we will have similar opinions on. But I just love how disparate we've been on some of the guys tonight. In this range with a fellow like Jeremiah Love, we've also got guys like Tony Pollard, who I know you think is going to be up for a good year. I'll get you to talk about him in a sec. But just some other guys in that area who will give honorary mentions to are guys like Quinshon Judkins, and then you get the runs of guys like Travion Henderson, DeAndre Swift, even Bashal Chutin for the Jags is in that area. and then you're starting to get towards the 30 mark. But Tay, you've actually lifted Pollard up to 21. You are the first person to say, I'm particularly hard on Titans players when it comes to fantasy. This year is the first year in ages I've seen you with terribly much confidence at all. You spoke about it a bunch with Carnell Tate. You've spoken about it a bunch in the quarterbacks ranking show around Cam Ward. But now it's time to bang the drum for Tony Pollard. Got to hear it.
Yeah, I've got confidence in this offensive as a whole. I don't really have confidence in the team winning games, but that's not what fantasy is.
That's not what fantasy is, yeah.
Like in the past, they've had bad defenses and they haven't been able to take advantage of it. They've just got boat raced and they haven't been able to do anything with it. Cam Ward in his second year, I really, really like the setup they have with the coaching staff. I really like Dayball being the OC and being focused on the offense and Salah just being able to focus on the defense. It's kind of like they're co-coaches more than one's above the other. I just think Salah got caught up, trying to run an offense that he didn't know how to do with the Jets. The Jets are a dumpster fire anyway. I'm not saying the Titans aren't, because they've proven that they are a bit of a dumpster fire too. But I really do think that this team is set up for success on the offensive side of the ball. They're going to be a better defense, but their personnel doesn't really I think Salah's going to take 2 or 3 years to really turn that defense around properly to where it's an actual like defense that he wants. So they're going to give up points. So I do think this team's going to hurry up, and I really do think this team's going to move the ball with Tate. They have equipped Cam Ward with everything he needs. If he doesn't succeed, it's on him. They've done everything they possibly can. They've helped the offensive line in the last 3 drafts. They've gone and got a bona fide number 1. They've got Wandale, who is a very good possession receiver. So if you need an out, he is there. Ridley is your 3 is kind of nuts. I still think Ridley has more to give. And if he's your 3, you can't really ask for quarterback. So they have equipped this offense with it. And I haven't even really got to Pollard, because the whole point of what I'm trying to bring up is I just think the offense, and I really do think that he's the best back over Spears. I don't see Spears fully eating into his role. I think the fact that Dayball's going to get Cam Ward out running is just going to off blood. He's a very good pass catcher and jump off threat from Cam Ward if he needs to be. Yeah, I don't know. To me, Pollard had a better season last year than anyone. If he just on last year, he's probably still value.
I think I didn't own a lot of Pollard last year, but I don't know. I kind of felt like when I matched up with somebody who had him, I was never worried about it. But gee,
No.
I feel like he ended up kind of producing more than I ever thought he was going to as an opponent. You know how sometimes a player doesn't always sparkle for you, but then when you see an opponent with them and they score well, it kind of sears itself in your memory because you're like, yeah, fuck that guy. So I kind of feel like Pollard fell in that basket a couple of times.
He did. I'm fully with you. I couldn't actually believe it when I saw his stats at the end of the year. But it's just another one of those ones where it's like he could not have been in a worse position at a worse team.
Yeah, not sexy.
And moving it all, and he still had those stats. So it's if things are a bit better, I think there's potential for him to be a lot better. But even if it's just a bit of a bump up, then you're going to see a pretty decent season. So it's not like I'm asking of him based off what we just saw.
No, 100%. I think he's in kind of a far better situation than some of the guys in that region because, I mean, Quinton Judkins is kind of the only part of that offense that I feel any comfort with in Cleveland. You have a look at DeAndre Swift, Chicago. That's actually kind of the opposite end. There's just so many mouths to feed. It's hard to know whether he'll get enough volume. And Pollard's kind of got the, this is the Goldilocks effect there. This is too cold. That one's too hot. Well, maybe Pollard's just right. So I don't know. I didn't expect I would be digging into Goldilocks when I got up this morning talking running backs. But here we are, Tay. Here we are. Tony Pollard, the Goldilocks running back of the year. Write it down.
Mate, we never know where the show's going to go, but we're always glad that it did. I was just going to say, Matty, I've just noticed I'm on 2% battery, so if either we just roll me out now or you just randomly notice me disappear.
No, I don't think, unless there's anybody else now who deserves a special notice, I kind of feel like we've done running back a lot of justice, don't you?
I have the grossest one ever, and honestly, I almost hope my phone cuts me out as I say this.
Give us one.
Rashad White. For whatever reason, I bumped him up like, I don't know, 12 spots today. I was taking a look at that Washington line and the way I think that
Yeah.
team's going to run. I don't have any confidence in Bill. I've seen Rashad White be very fantasy relevant on the bus a couple of years ago, and it was in the similar situation where Jaden Daniels, I think, is oh, sorry, the run blocking is shit. They're better at pass blocking. I do think that like he's going to be able to get a lot of dump offs, but I think Rashad White is just going to take over Bill. I actually think he's just probably going to get proven to be a better back, and he's going to get utilized. Bill's what a 6th, 7th rounder. I just think he got a lot of buzz that he probably didn't quite deserve, and I think Rashad White's actually in a situation. And I really like Washington this year as a bounce. Yes, there isn't a lot of guys to throw the ball to outside of Terry McLaurin for Jaden Daniels, but I just talked about Ward being able to get out and run and helping hard. I really do think that Jaden Daniels running the ball is going to help a guy like Rashad White. And to be honest, the fact that there's only one other guy taking cap passes, like generally outside of probably Cheeky Bang Bang, Cheeky Okonkwo, which we'll get to in the tight end show. I really just think that he's going to get a lot of dump offs this year. So it might be one of those situations kind of similar to like a Kenny Gainwell, where I just think he's going to get there in a PPR league with a little bit of upside on the ground. So I don't know. I guess my point is for people that are taking Bill, I like Rashad White better than I like Bill.
Yeah, and I do too. I think I've got him at 35 and 39. You've got him at 30 and 40. So it's in a similar order, but the gap's just a bit stronger. So I like the call because, I mean, Washington has to do something. And on the ground is kind of where they've been doing their killing. Jaden Daniels hasn't really proven to be a super effective passer. But he is definitely the ecosystem there. Everything else has to grow from him. He is 100% where the fun's going to come from. Mate, I really think we've done a great job with running back. From there, it gets into the bowels, and from there, you're in rounds 10 plus probably, and it's time to really take some swings. So, do what you can in your drafts. Tay, we're going to get back in about a week's time to go through this whole process with wide receiver, and I expect maybe in that week too, we're going to know more about when NFL Classic SuperCoach is coming out too. So I feel like in the next week, it is going to be really hit the straps time. Mate, before we get out of here, just want to say to everyone, catch the Draft Doctrine on Substack, but also on YouTube and on the Spotify podcast. And Tay, it is so good to have you back. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on Running Back. And we'll catch you next week, brother.
Absolutely, Matty C. I am rock hard. Thank you, Matty C, and thank you, Super Coaches.
Hooroo.
SuperCoach Halfa. Get your edge, get it faster. Taylor leads, Maddie's laughter. NFL SuperCoach Halfa. NFL